So these are my 2022 American League MLB prediction videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one video for the American League, one video for the National League, and then I'll also do my awards and World Series prediction. So we're starting with the AL East, and in 5th place, I've got the Baltimore Orioles. So just having a look at their roster, they've got only one catcher on the 40-man roster, which was new signing Robinson Chirinos, who is a very good player. He's, provides solid production, but hopefully, eventually, the number 2 prospect in all of baseball, Adley Rutschman, will be making his debut. They signed Jordan Lyles in the offseason. He's a quality pitcher, but whether he's a viable second starting option is questionable. So outside of John Means, they kind of really lack some starting pitching depth. Their bullpen as well doesn't really have too many solid names. Tanner Scott's been successful in the past before, though. They signed Rougned Odor, who his last 2 years, his OPS has been below 670. So he is who he is. He is entertaining. He does hit some dingers. They've also got some solid players, some solid young players. You got Ryan Mountcastle, who had a very nice Rookie of the Year rookie campaign. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting. Really, though, their outfield is where their strength lies. You got Austin Hayes, who posted a 3.1 Baseball Reference WAR last year. You've also got Anthony Santander, who did only post a 720 OPS last year, but in 2020, in the shortened season, he had a very good year. And last year, we saw Cedric Mullins break out. He had a 30 home run and 30 stolen base season, which was great to see, while slashing 291 with a 360 on-base percentage. So hopefully his elite production continues. However, obviously, with the Orioles, what you're most looking forward to is seeing potentially some of your prospects come up. So you've got Grayson Rodriguez, who's an absolute flamethrower, Adley Rutschman, who I just mentioned. So yeah, I think the future is bright for the Orioles. It just won't be this year. So a 5th place finish for them. And then in 4th place, I have got the New York Yankees. Zach Britton is a huge loss for that bullpen. He's injured, I think, at the start of the year. And I just think for them at the moment, I think their starting pitching is really what's lacking. Garrett Cole's obviously a great pitcher. He's finished, I think, top 5 in the Cy Young voting in the American League the last 4 seasons. He's great. But outside of that, you've really got a lot of questions. Severino's hopefully going to come back, but he's only pitched in 7 games since the 2019 season. You got Jameson Taillon, who's really good, but he pitched in 25 games last year for the first time since 2018. And then you got Jordan Montgomery and Nestor Cortez. It's just not a great starting rotation for me. Their bullpen's clearly been a strength, for the previous couple of years. It's headlined by Aroldis Chapman, who, despite having his worst statistical season since 2011, still notched a 3.36 ERA and 30 saves in 2021. And you've also got Chad Green and Jonathan Loizaga supporting him. So clearly their bullpen is still going to be a strength. They did get Anthony Rizzo, and they were able to re-sign him, which is good. So he's going to add some solid defense at first base and a lefty bat. But outside of him and Joey Gallo, they are really lacking lefty bats, particularly when hitting to the short porch, which I think is weird. I do like the trades that they got. They were able to get Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. So they're really good pickups. I do like them. And you've also got Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu, who I think are going to improve this year. But yeah, I just think, in a stacked AL East, I think their starting pitching is really going to be what's going to let them down. So yeah, I got them coming 4th. In 3rd place, I have got the Boston Red Sox. So they've obviously got an incredible lineup. You got Xander Bogaerts, who's even improving defensively. You got Rafael Devers, JD Martinez, and Kike Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, such great names. But then a new signing is Trevor Story, who, despite playing at Coors Field, his home and road splits, his home splits are obviously a lot better. His on-base percentage at home, last year, it was 365, and on the road it was 292. And then for his career, his slugging percentage has been 603 at home, which is at Coors Field, and then on the road it's 442. So he's not quite the same player that he is, away from Coors, but he's still a very good player. He adds a lot defensively, and I think he'll be a very good hitter. However, again, I think what's going to be a struggle for them is their pitching as well. Chris Sale is hopefully going to return. He hasn't really, pitched much for the previous 2 years. He's great, obviously, when he pitches. They did get Rich Hill to replace Eduardo Rodriguez, so that's a really good pickup. And then you've also got Nathan Eovaldi, who made his first All-Star team last year. That's a really good player. But, whether you're going to get the same production that you got from Nick Pivetta last year, and then as your fifth spot, you've either got Michael Walker or Tanner Houck. So I don't know how much that's, that really leaves a lot to be desired for your fourth and fifth starter. Jake Diekman's a solid pickup, so he's going to be in the bullpen with Matt Barnes and Garrett Whitlock. But yeah, I think they'll be a very competitive team in 2022. But yeah, I do have them finishing in third place. In second place, I have got the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, they won 100 games last year and were obviously the AL champions in 2020. Tyler Glasnow is a huge loss. He's obviously not going to be pitching in 2022, which sucks. But, Shane Baz will be getting a full year. He's one of the better prospects in all of baseball. I believe he's number 12, according to MLB Pipeline. And they did sign Corey Kluber, and the Rays just have the tendency to make players perform at their best. So I expect Corey Kluber to return to his old all-star form this year. You got Shane McClanahan, so that's good. You've also got Ryan Yarbrough and Drew Rasmussen. So you got some solid starting pitching options. And even with the loss of closer Nick Anderson and Colin McHugh, they still got an amazing bullpen. You got guys like Matt Whistler, who was terrible at the Giants, but then when he went to the Rays, he had a 2.15 ERA in 27 games. You've also got Andrew Kitteridge, so they've got such a great bullpen. And then, their lineup, you're going to have Wander Franco for a whole year, so that's going to be amazing. They just signed him to a huge monster extension, which is great. You got Brandon Lauer, who is one of the better second basemen in all of baseball. Last year, he hit 39 home runs and had an OPS plus of 142, which is great. You've got Austin Meadows. You've got such a very good lineup. You've got Manuel Margot, Kevin Kiermaier, and Randy Arozarena in that outfield. I really like them this year, and I think the Rays will finish second. However, who I've got finishing first is obviously the Toronto Blue Jays. They lost two very key pieces in Robbie Ray, who was the 2021 AL Cy Young winner, as well as Marcus Semien, who went to the Texas Rangers. But then to replace him, they've gone out and got Matt Chapman, who's one of the better defensive third basemen in the league, and who did struggle last year, but he was dealing with a hip issue, so I expect his numbers to improve. And then you also got Kevin Gausman, who last year was 14-6 with a 2.81 ERA. You're also going to get Jose Berrios for a full season. They also got Yusei Kikuchi, which is a great pickup for the back end of that rotation. I just really like this team. Kevin Biggio as well. He's previously been a very good offensive player. He had OPS pluses of 113 and 122 in 2019 and 2020. So you add him, hopefully he returns to form with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, who quietly put up a 6-WAR season last year from the shortstop position, to go along with an outfield of Teoscar Hernandez, George Springer, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. This is a great team. And they also picked up Yimi Garcia, for the bullpen. So I love this team. I love what the Blue Jays are doing. And I fully expect them to have a great season this year. And I believe that they will win a stacked AL East. So moving on now to the AL Central, we're going to start off with, in fifth place, the Cleveland Guardians. I just have a feeling that they're going to get fifth. I think on paper, they've got two of the better players in that division. Obviously, they've got Shane Bieber, who will be returning this year. And they got Jose Ramirez, J-Ram, who's, last year he clubbed 36 homers, 103 RBIs, and had an OPS plus of 141, which was good for a 6.7 WAR season. He's one of the better players in baseball. But for some reason, I just got a feeling that they're going to finish fifth, even though I like their rotation. They got really good young pitchers like Zach Plesac, Aaron Savali, Tristan McKenzie, and Cal Quintrell. And they've also got, two very decent bullpen pieces in Emmanuel Clase and James Charanchak. Yeah, I just think that this lineup outside of Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes just really leaves a lot to be desired. Josh Naylor is coming back from injury, so that's exciting. He's a very young player and he looked really good. And Miles Straw in a Cleveland uniform last year was really good. He put up a 3-WAR season. Yeah, as I said, for some reason I just got a feeling that they're going to finish in 5th place. In 4th place, I've got the Kansas City Royals. I really do like the Zach Greinke pickup. I think he's going to add a lot to that team, definitely from a veteran leadership perspective. However, I do have a feeling that he is going to get traded at some point. I don't think their rotation is particularly great, but they are young arms, so I think someone like Zach Greinke is really going to help. I like the trade for Amir Garrett. He has previously been a very effective reliever in the majors. And then in that lineup, you've got Salvador Perez, who had one of the better catching seasons that I've ever seen. Last year he put up 48 home runs and 121 RBIs, and he slashed 273 with a 316 on-base percentage and 544 slug. So that's incredible. Carlos Santana, I'm hoping that he's going to improve, upon his output last year. In 2019, he did make the All-Star team. So I'm hoping that he's going to improve. You've also got Nikki Lopez, who is really one of the more underrated players in baseball. He had a 4.3 baseball reference WAR last year. So, if you put him along with Whit Merrifield Jr., you got Adalberto Mondesi, so hopefully he can remain healthy. And then they just announced that Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be having a full season in the majors, so that's great to hear, and I'm loving that. So yeah, hopefully those pieces in the infield, that's hopefully going to carry them to a 4th place finish. But yeah, I can't see them finishing any higher. Then in 3rd place, we've got the Detroit Tigers. Went out and upgraded their starting pitching, so they signed Eduardo Rodriguez to a 5-year, $77 million deal. I love that signing. They also got Michael Pineda, who's shown to be an effective starting pitcher in the majors, to a 1-year, $5.5 million contract. So you've got him, Casey Myers, Matt Manning, Tariq Skubal, and Spencer Turnbull. That's a really good starting rotation. And then at the back end of that bullpen, you got Michael Fulmer and Gregory Soto. So I'm really liking that. They've also got a nice catching tandem. They just traded for Tucker Barnhart, and you've also got Eric Haas. So that's a really good, catching tandem that you got there. I really love the signing of Javi Baez. He had a 117 OPS plus last year. He's been a former MVP candidate, so he's a very good pickup who they signed to a 6-year, $140 million deal. I don't think the Tigers are just there yet. I think they're still going to be a couple of years, but they've got a loaded farm system. They got 2 of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball, one of which who's unfortunately injured at the start of the year in Riley Green. But Spencer Torkelson, who I think was a draft pick in 2020, is going to be making his major league debut. So there are exciting times ahead for the Detroit Tigers, but yeah, I don't think they're there just yet. And then in 2nd place, I've got the Minnesota Twins. I don't really know what to make of the Twins this year, but it seems to me that they're obviously doing a bit of a retooling. So they were expected to have a big 2021 season, and they only won 73 games in the end, but it doesn't help that their best player in Byron Buxton, who they just signed to a monster extension, I think it's 7 years, $175 million, he went down injured. But if you look at his stats in the brief games that he played last year, he only played in 61 games. He had a 1. OPS and a 4.5 baseball reference WAR, and slashed 306, 358, and 647. So he's an incredible player when healthy. And then you go out and get Carlos Correa, who was arguably the biggest shortstop name that was on the free agent market. I love that deal. For the Twins, but I particularly love it for Carlos Correa because it has opt-outs for him after years 1 and 2. So if he has a monster year for the Twins, he can cash out and then, try and get a bigger contract elsewhere. But you've also got guys like Alex Kiriloff, who last year was, he was injured for most of the season. He's going to be coming back. And then we know that, Gio Urshela and Gary Sanchez, who they've traded for, have been successful major league players in the past. So hopefully, they can return to form. And then in the rotation, you added guys like Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, and best of all, Sonny Gray, who have all had success, recent success in the major leagues. In particular, Sonny Gray, who made the All-Star team in 2019 and has been the ace of the staff. So I really like some of the pickups that the Twins have got. And I think, banking on a fully healthy season from Byron Buxton, I think they're a second-place team. However, winning the AL Central is going to be the Chicago White Sox. They just made a big move. They just got AJ Pollock and they traded Craig Kimbrell. So they're adding to their outfield depth. AJ Pollock's an absolute monster. I mean, health's always been a bit of a concern for him, but if you look at his numbers, he puts up absolutely incredible stats all the time. And their bullpen was already a strength. So getting rid of Kimbrell and getting in somewhere where they're shoring up, where they needed to shore up is a great deal. Unfortunately, Garrett Crochet's going to be injured for the 2022 season. So that is a big loss to their bullpen. But even still, they've gone out and got Joe Kelly and Kendall Graveman. And then you've got Liam Hendricks, who's an absolute beast. He's the best reliever in all of baseball. So that's great. Carlos Rodon is a major loss to that rotation, but you're getting Michael Kopech in that rotation now, and he was brilliant out of the bullpen last year. And you've already got Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn, Dylan Cease, who's got incredible stuff. He had a 12.3 strikeouts per 9 last year. And then you've also got Dallas Keuchel at the back end of that rotation. So it's still a great rotation. You're getting a full year out of Luis Robert, as well as Eloy Jimenez. You've also got one of the best catchers in baseball, Yasmani Grandal. And then they got Josh Harrison, who's a very, as everyone said online, that he's a very Tony La Russa addition. And yeah, he is, but he's a very solid addition to the team. So I'm really liking what the White Sox have done. And I expect them to finish in first place in the AL Central. Moving on now to the AL West, and we're starting off with the Oakland Athletics. It annoys me what happens with this franchise. They've got one of the richest owners in all of baseball, and they don't spend money, and they've just traded away 4 of their best players. They just traded Sean Manaea today, and they've also traded away Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, and Chris Bassett. And they also lost longtime manager Bob Melvin. So it's terrible what's happening to this team. They still got some decent rotation pieces like Frankie Montas. Lou Trevino's a very good closer. And they did pick up some nice prospects in those trades. You got Christian Pache, who has threatened to break out, and I'm hoping it does for him. But Ramon Laureano suspended for the first 28 games. I honestly expect a 100-loss team, 100-loss season for the A's this year. Particularly in a loaded AL West. In fourth place, I got the Texas Rangers. I just don't think it's their time yet. I love the moves that they made in the offseason. You get 2020 World Series MVP Corey Seager. You also get Marcus Semien, who finished second in the MVP last year in the American League. No, third in the MVP voting in the American League. He put up a 7.3 baseball reference WAR. And he also hit 45 home runs from the second base position, which is a record from the second base position. So along with Nate Lowe, Nick Solak, and Andy Ibanez, as well as Mitch Garver, you've got an incredible infield with the Rangers. You've also added versatile players like Brad Miller, who I really like, and then you've also got Cole Calhoun. Both didn't have their best years last year, but they have been effective major league players. However, I just think that their starting rotation isn't quite good enough this year. They did get John Gray, who was acquired for 4 years and $56 million. And they got Martin Perez and Garrett Richards, who will add some depth to their rotation. But yeah, I just don't quite see them, challenging for the AL West crown this year. But they do have a very loaded farm system. You got guys like Josh Young. So yeah, I'm expecting them to be, it's Josh Jong, I think. But yeah, I expect them to be challenging in the years to come, but just not quite yet. And this is my big surprise, I think, of 2022. I have got the Houston Astros finishing in third place in this division. I think Carlos Correa is a huge loss, and they've also lost guys like Zach Greinke, Yimi Garcia, and Kendall Graveman. They're going to get Justin Verlander to return this year, which is huge, but we don't know what he's going to pitch like. He's looked amazing out of spring training, though. As of, I think it was April 1st, he had pitched in 8.2 innings in spring training and hadn't give up an earned run. So that's great. And then you got guys like Lance McCullers, Framber Valdez, Luis Garcia, and Jake Odorizzi and Jose Urquidy. So one of those guys is going to miss out. So, yeah, that's a very good starting rotation. I like the pickup of Hector Neris. So that's a really good pickup to their bullpen. So he'll go along with guys like Christian Javier and Ryan Presley. Outside of Shohei Ohtani, the best DH for me resides in Houston, and that's Yordan Alvarez. So he's part of a stacked lineup where you've got Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Yuli Gurriel, and Kyle Tucker. And I expect Alex Bregman to have a bit of a return to form this year. Last year he did struggle a bit, but still did put up an OPS plus of over 100. But yeah, I have them finishing third place. I've got a feeling, I don't know why that is, because on paper they're a great team. But yeah, I just have a feeling that they're going to finish in third place. And that's partly because I've got the Los Angeles Angels finishing in second place. Now, this may be a bet with my heart rather than my head, but it would just be too painful to not have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout in the playoffs at one point. So, spoiler alert for one of my playoff standings, the Angels will be in it. You know, they've got the two best players in baseball. I mean, Shohei Ohtani, what he did last year, I've never seen anything like that. I think it was 46 home runs, 100 RBIs, and then a 3.18 ERA. That's just unheard of. He's the best sportsman basically in the world. And then you got Mike Trout, who's, besides Shohei Ohtani, is the best player in all of baseball. They've outside of Trout, though, they haven't really got a particularly great outfield, but it does have the potential for upside in young players like Brandon Marsh and Joe Adell. And in that lineup as well, you've got Jared Walsh, who made an all-star team last year. He was great. And Anthony Rendon from 2017 to 2020 was one of the better hitters. So yeah, hopefully Anthony Rendon can return to form. I really like what they've done with their bullpen. They've added, they re-signed Raisel Iglesias, who had a 2.57 ERA and 34 saves last year. And to go along with him, they signed Archie Bradley, Ryan Tepera, who was brilliant last year, and lefty Aaron Loup. So all of those guys are really good relievers. However, I'm a little bit worried about their starting rotation. I mean, Noah Syndergaard is basically a high risk. Not really that much of a high risk. It's only a 1-year deal. So if he can return to his best, that would be great. He does boast a 3.32 ERA in 120 starts. But you're banking on his health, and health's always been a bit of a question with the Angels starting rotation. But yeah, as I said, it could be a bet that's more with my heart rather than my head. But yeah, I got the Angels in second place. And in first place, another surprise, I have got the Seattle Mariners. I love what they've done this offseason. They won 90 games and they kind of came from the clouds a bit last year. But, you've gone out and you've added Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez, who hasn't really, been too great the past, couple of years. But in 2018 and 2019, he did have an OPS plus of over 130. They've gone out and signed Robbie Ray, who is the 2021 AL Cy Young winner. So to go along with him, you've got Marcus Gonzalez, who's a very good second starter. You got Chris Flexen, who's really good. And I'm hoping that Logan Gilbert as well can improve upon his 2021 season. He's got a lot of promise. They added Sergio Romo to the bullpen, which is a really nice pickup. So you got him, Paul Sewell, Drew Steckenrider. That's a really good back end of the bullpen. Jared Kelenic didn't really have the best rookie year, but I expect that to improve. He was one of the highest ranked prospects in all of baseball for a reason. He's a stellar talent, and I expect him to improve. Kyle Lewis will also be returning. So, in the outfield, you're going to have him, Jesse Winker now, who'll likely DH, and then you got Mitch Haniger as well, who's great. They also got Adam Frazier in a trade as well, who I really love that pickup. He's going to add a lot of depth. And so I think with the upgrades that they've made and the expectation that the young players that they've got, like JP Crawford and Ty France, will continue to improve, I think that they're going to win the AL West this year. And so these are my final AL playoff standings. In first place, I'm going to have the Chicago White Sox. I think they're going to be helped by the fact that they're in my opinion, the weakest division in the American League. In second, I've got the Toronto Blue Jays. I think this lineup is so loaded. They're just loaded from top to bottom, and they've got a very good starting pitching rotation. Forgot to mention Alex Manoah as well, who's basically their fourth starter. He'd be a second starter on most teams. In third, I got the Seattle Mariners. Yeah, as I said, I love the pickups they've made. They haven't, rested on their laurels, and they're going for it. That's great. And I'm hoping that Julio Rodriguez will get called up to the majors at some point this year. In fourth, I've got the Tampa Bay Rays. They just always find a way to win, and I expect that to happen this year. In fifth place, I've got the Boston Red Sox. I love the Trevor Story move, and they've, again, got a stacked lineup. Pitching is a little bit of a question, but I think their lineup's going to carry them through some games, and we've seen the difference that Alex Cora makes to that team. And in sixth place, I've also got the Los Angeles Angels. I just want Ohtani and Trout in the playoffs, and I'm banking on it happening this year. So there's my prediction video. That is my prediction video for the American League. Stay tuned for the National League one, and then my awards and World Series prediction.